Yo guys, fear facers, personal developers. Welcome to this little live stream Friday fear live show rant. Call it whatever. I actually have a name for it, but I'm not quite there yet. Last weekend I was exhausted because I had a very long work day. Today I'm just a mess because I'm sick. My body didn't want to play with me anymore, so it caved. But you know what we do when we're sick? We load up with some green tea and then just get well by sleeping a lot, eating a lot of healthy herbs and like ginger. I'm teaching myself to eat coriander. That's not what this stream is gonna be about. I'm doing everything to recuperate and it's going great. I think so. If you wonder why my lips are very glossy today, it's because I'm trying something new with my green tea here. Coconut oil in the tea. It feels like I just kissed someone because it's like all slippery all over them. Speaking of kissing, that's actually gonna be one of the stories that are gonna be told today. You see, I'm having this little new theme, or maybe I've always had it, I just haven't crystallized it before, but I'm gonna be sharing a fear-facing story every week during this live stream. It is part of one of the books I'm currently reading, Long Story Short by Margaret Laitman. It's a great book on how to tell stories, but not only how to tell stories, also how to have stories to tell. And it actually aligns very well with what I'm preaching here. That is stepping out of our comfort zone, facing fears, and just doing the things that are scary. Because that is how we get around to have great stories to tell, exciting anecdotes, and just weird stuff, awkward stuff, funny stuff. And it got me thinking. It got me thinking. Like all the things that is of real value to tell is it has happened when I've been in outside my comfort zone, when I've done things that scares me. And looking back at my life, like the funniest things, they have really been when I've been out there. And that's why I'm gonna tell you a traveling story from my time in Austria. And it did involve some kissing, makeout. Yeah, we're gonna get around to that, but it's actually it's something I want to tell because it's part of the future that lies ahead. Like the stories you get to experience when you're traveling, when you're really outside your comfort zone. I just said that, but when you look at fears and why we don't do things, for me it's two part. For one, it's the actual fear of like doing the thing that scares me. If I want to go out and talk to people, like since I'm in a rut right now where I do a lot of interviews for a little video series I'm trying to create for a company, that in itself is scary. The very action of approaching and interviewing people. But I'd say that the part that is actually holding me back the most, that is the biggest inertia for me to go out there, is the part where I have to leave the comfortable place, where I have to remove myself from comfort, from a stress-free environment, to remove myself from food. Food is my biggest addiction. Just being able to sit down and watch movies, YouTube and stuff. I keep coming back to that, but the fear of leaving that's equally scary as actually doing the activity that also scares me. So we're working against two powers or entities or call it whatever. But it's important to make this distinction. It's important to do this root cause analysis, seeking the the real issue, the underlying problem to what is holding you back. Because when you know what it is, you can design, you can shift it around to make it not be as a, when you're walking blind, when you don't know what it is that is working against you, it's hard to address it. Like for me, if food is what I don't want to leave, perhaps I can set up a design a reward system where that is actually what I get for doing all that. Like I'm not allowed to have any good meal or eat at all if I'm not doing the fear facing activity that I know I should do, because I've already identified that. So that is one part where I can actually do that before. So I've checked that off. Like, okay, now I've eaten, I've done the watching of the series or whatever it was that I wanted to stay in. Then it's also checked off. So now I can go out there and do it. You can play around with it. I don't know what it is for you, but asking yourself that question, one, what is it that scares me in terms of activity, and address that with different mindsets, and having a appropriate level for how you will approach that fear. But secondly, asking yourself, what is it that I'm so afraid of leaving? What is your comfortable place that holds you back? That was just the framework I think of. Before I move forward, I just have to make sure we're streaming. Oh yeah. Oh man. We got with us US Live We. Sorry man, I can't pronounce your name. Can't you write it out in phonetics? I need to know how to pronounce your name. He's a true fear facer athletic. He is doing this hardcore workouts every weeks. He's emailing me his to-dos and what he's supposed to do, and then he actually goes out and do these things. He's this man got some guts. Last week he went out and just approached people at the beach, sat down next to nice girls and started talking, coming from a place where this was like unthinked of. So he impresses the shit out of me. Way more gutsy than I currently am. I'm in a too comfortable place, and I will come back to why that will change. Actually, I will tell you that straight away. You see what is coming up in a month, approximately. Wait for it. What is coming up in the future? I've decided to go on a us live we. Yeah, that's your YouTube name, but what's your real name? That's what I have a trouble with pronouncing. I'm talking to my fear-facing little adept here. The coming period, like in about a month, I am planning to go to Japan, to Tokyo, and live there for 1 to 2 months. It's not finalized 100% because I haven't booked the tickets and arranged for accommodation and all these things that needs to be figured out. But I have a more and more rigid plan to make this happen. It is actually, it's very inspired by this book too, that I need to go out there and have stories to tell. I need to go out there and it's part inspiring you guys, because during this Japan trip, Tokyo trip, it's part of this channel. It's motivated by me being able to face a lot of fears and share that journey, and perhaps inspire you to face fears that relate to your area as well. Because I'm gonna set up a Japan fear-facing bucket list. It's a list that I'd love you to contribute to. You can give me ideas on what should be on this fear-facing list, and then one by one I'm gonna tick them off. So it's gonna be a fear-facing adventure where I'm gonna live in Tokyo. That's the plan, at least for 1 to 2 months, and get to know the people of Tokyo I don't know, can that be done? Do they speak good enough English? Strangers, weird fear-facing activities, adventures. These things are gonna happen, and I'm gonna share them with you, and it's gonna be part of the future that lies ahead. I'm excited. I'm scared about it, but it's also gonna be a development journey for the company I'm building, because I'm doing this as an educational travel or an educational film skill developing adventure. I'm gonna practice. I'm gonna take some courses and master the art of movie filmmaking, and it's gonna go down in Japan. Super excited about it. Super scared about it. And again, if you have fear-facing things that should go up on this Tokyo, Japan fear-facing bucket list, let me know, and I'm gonna put that up on the Fear Gym website, where you can have a look at it and also how it's moving along. Okay, now we got pronunciation on Us Live We's real name, the person behind it, the fear-facing guy that is actually doing what he's saying he's gonna do. Nakshon. Am I am I doing it right? Nakshon. Oh, he says I gotta work in 15 minutes, but then I'm listening. Hope you had a good week. I'm excited for you. Oh, it's perfect. Nakshon. It's great having you here. You're part of this community. You're a fear facer for real. I'm proud of you. I look forward to hear your weekly status update, which you send me on a regular basis every week on the email. And if that's something you want to do, just send me an email and we can see what we can make out of it. It's actually a super important thing, and this is something I'm going to come into. Speaking of the story I'm going to tell. Okay, I'm going to tell that story right now. Let's tell the story of the Kiss Makeout story I started this YouTube stream up with, the hype. Do you want to hear the story of what crazy things went down in Austria when I was working there as a bouncer? Let's go there. And that will also explain what I started talking about with the whole email thing here. You see, it was 10 years ago, I'd say. I'm 31 now, so that means I was around 21 years old. I just came off my military service, working as a mechanical boat engineer. Quite fun and exciting, and that's worth a stream in itself. But also, when you're in the military service, you're of course you're allowed. You're obliged. You wear guns and you protect things. Like we took turns on protecting our boat when we were out traveling in the Swedish among the Swedish islands and such. And so you got this background, and you got this skill development courses on how to be like a bodyguard, or perhaps not a bodyguard, but a guy that protected buildings and boats and stuff. So coming out from the military service, I had that background, and I felt like quite confident in protecting shit, even though back then I had a gun when I was doing it. But so that whole military service was throughout a year. It played out over a period of a year. But when that ended, me and I think we were 5 friends, we had planned this trip down to Austria, because now we wanted to have a little bit of fun. We wanted to just snowboard, live life, and do funny things. We've been when you're in the military service, you're very restricted in what kind of life you want to live. Now we wanted the total opposite of that. So we we flew down to Austria and we decided to have a snowboarding season. And boy, did we have fun there. So many great stories, so many adventures. And that's actually why I was having this huge smile on my face when I started the stream, because I was going through one of these stories and like, man, that was fun. But so when I got there, actually me and my friend, we got there like 2 or 3 weeks later than the other friends, and they had already gotten accommodation and work, so we needed to figure out a way to get some income coming in, but also a work. And one of my friends, actually it was one of my better childhood friends, he worked in this bar as a wardrobe guy. He was standing just by the entrance door where he hanged up the clothes for the people coming in. And this was close to New Year's Eve, so we went there to this bar and asked if perhaps they had some work that we could do. And as it happens, this owner said that, well, we do need a bouncer, a door guy, someone that could check IDs and like just make sure that the line is in proper order. And like feeling a bit confident, just having my military service in the back, I felt like I can do that. I mean, I'm only 181 centimeters tall, but I'm not that huge, but I felt confident since I just basically been doing that for at least to some extent. So I said, sure, why not? Let's try it out. I saw myself very good, actually. I was super confident back then, and so we were put up to test if it was going to work or not on New Year's Eve, the most crowded day on the entire year. I'm not going to tell that story because that's crazy. It played out all right, and I got the work. So I actually got the work as a bouncer working on a bar in Austria. That's the setup for the context. And I'm working next up, and I'm working next to my dear old friend, which I knew my entire life. We've been growing up together. So it just was a super fun and exciting environment where we got to talk. I got to talk to a whole lot of strangers like every evening because it's snowboarded. I got 5 minutes to make it a quick story. Well, I'll try to make it in 5 minute story. Not show on, but it needs its time to be told too. Either way, we snowboard every day, and then at the evenings around 9 o'clock we got into the bar and we started to work. I was running the door, checking IDs, and my friend, he was hanging clothes in the clothes department. If you want to see some pictures of this, you can check out the story of my life videos where I have some pictures included that relates to this whole work atmosphere. And the thing is, in this environment, there's a lot of, it's like no real rules. At this bar, we were perhaps 6 people working, and even at work times, everybody was drinking. They were drinking, I was drinking every night. Now, we didn't get like super drunk, or some people got super drunk even though they worked, but I was quite subtle. I kept myself cool. And this is from the period when I actually drank a lot. I don't do that anymore. It's very seldom that happens. But when you're snowboarding in Austria for 3 or 4 months, you drink a lot of alcohol because that's just the context, that's the environment you're in. Getting to the story, the Makeout story, it's that when you're in this door area, there was a lot of girls passing. There was a lot of opportunities to talk and flirt with girls, and it was actually a whole lot of Nordic people that was working in this village that we were living in Austria. So it was just a setup to interact with all these different people. It was like our own little community, and it was actually one specific girl that I had heard that she was a little bit fond of me, and I was a little bit fond of her. And one evening when there was this masquerade, she and another friend, they came to the bar they were all silver, dressed up in silver, and it was like everybody was dressed up. It was super fun. And me and my dear friend, he was also dressed up. And as the evening progressed, the two of them, they came up to us and we talked, and for some reason, that idea of having a makeout contest, a contest that would decide who was the best to kiss or make out between me and my friend, that was all of a sudden on the table. I have no idea how that came to be, but that was the setup. We decided that we were gonna both make out with these two girls, and I'm not sure if the idea came from them or from us, but it was still a work hour. It was everybody were still working. People were coming and going, but they were standing there and we were standing there, and we decided to have this makeout contest where I was first gonna make out with the girl that I wasn't. She was still a super nice girl, but it wasn't the girl I was fond of, and my friend was gonna make out with the girl I was a bit fond of, and then we were gonna switch. And then they were gonna leave their judgment. Who was the best guy to make out? That was so funny. And the thing is, my friend Lou, my dear friend that I love very much, he was super confident that he was gonna win this, because he was like, he just like, I'm gonna win this. I'm so great at making out. He was super confident. But the thing is, I was actually quite confident in my kissing abilities too. Because if there was one thing that I had heard throughout my youth, because I actually met a lot of girls when I was growing up, and the one thing that kept coming up when I was kissing girls, making out with girls, is that they commented a lot. Man, Alex, you're really good at kissing. You're so good at it. And this is not like an ego booster. This was 10 years ago. That was just the review I got. Girls told me that I kissed very good. So I also felt super confident. And yeah, that was the setup. And then we just like very... and it was an excitement in the air, and then I started kissing the other girl, and we did this somewhat simultaneously. And my other friend, he started kissing that girl. It felt a bit weird, but it felt still like, this is nice. We had fun. We smiled. We laughed. That ended up. We didn't say much. Like youthful playfulness was in the whole atmosphere. So we stopped, and then immediately we changed. And I leaned forward towards the girl that I liked, and she had this sparkly, like very tight dress, because that was a masquerade, as I said. And I leaned forward and I kissed her, and we made out. We made out a bit longer than they did, because they had stopped, but we continued because I guess there was something there. And then we stopped, and then we all looked at each other, we laughed, and then the two girls turned towards each other, and they tingled a bit, and then they like did some small conversation, and then they were about to announce the winner, and me and Love we were just my lovely friend, we were standing there. We were so both confident. I don't know if I had that confidence still, but we were looking at each other. We were looking at them. We were just awaiting the answer. Who was gonna win this contest? This epic contest. And then simultaneously, they said, "Alex, you're the winner." And I was so happy. I was so happy. I crushed that contest. I just I mean, I haven't been in too many contests and I haven't won too many contests, but I won the shit out of that contest and it felt so good. I haven't gone through that story in a long time, but that makes me so happy. I kicked ass at the Makeout contest, and that was one of many, many funny and exciting things that went down at that bar, throughout that season in Austria. One of the greatest times of my life, where I snowboarded and partied and had a lot of fun, and I have some more stories I can share at another time if that's something you want. Thank you for joining the stream. I forgot it. It's so hard. Nakshon. Thank you so much. Go to work. Have fun. Keep crushing those fears. Thank you for staying around for the whole story. I know you only had 5 minutes, and I know I dragged it out for a little bit. Super fun having a listener here. Yeah. So that was the story. And coming back to the whole thing, what I started out with, what this book is telling me, how to tell good stories. I mean, I have to work on this craft, how to tell a good story, get hang up in too many details and stuff like that. But that's a progress. If you start to practice, like now, if I start to do a weekly storytelling little episode, I'm gonna get better at that. But the fundamental piece here, having stories to tell, that starts with putting yourself out there and experiencing things. And that's part of why I'm gonna go to Japan, so I can have more stories to tell, have a more exciting life, saying yes to things, and just that's when you get perspective on things. If you're just if you keep living your life in a box and nothing new is coming into it, then what stories are you gonna have to tell? Sure, I mean, funny things can happen in your daily environment too. As for me, when I go out there and talk to people, funny things happen. I have a lot of great stories from these random interactions. Like, have you seen the interview I did? I think it was in March. Yeah, the beginning of March. It's a warm-up episode to the Let's Flirt video, where I went to the park with my best friend, Christopher, and we just set out to interview some random people as a warm-up exercise before approaching girls. And I ran into this older woman, she was like 50 plus, and she told me the story about how she had gills, like fish gills behind her ears. And she actually showed me that. We have that on tape too. It's in the YouTube videos, my library. I had such a funny, great little moment there, looking at this person I've never met before, looking behind her ears, and she telling me how she has this old piece of gill behind her ears. We laughed so hard. She was so super funny. That was me putting myself out there in my everyday life. So you don't have to go travel to Japan to have great stories to tell. You don't have to work as a bouncer to have great stories to tell. But it helps a little bit. But it's not a deal breaker for you having great stories to tell for living a more exciting life. Life is like a movie. You need changes. You need things to happen. I mean, that's when you're gonna meet the wife or the man or whatever. You're not gonna do it at home. It's gonna happen when you put yourself out there. That's when it's gonna happen. I think we got a nice little episode here. This was fun, sharing this little story. Next week I'll come up with something new to share. It might be a past story, or it might be a story that happened throughout the week, because I am trying my best to face some kinds of fears every day, because that's part of my daily routine, to get that wheel rolling, to get the momentum of doing something on a daily basis, because then it's just who you are. It's your identity. I'm the kind of guy that does the hard thing, because that's when the good things happen. It's just this obvious, clear fact to me. If I don't do it, I'm gonna be miserable and I'm gonna regret things. It's an undoubtable fact. I have to face fears, and if I do something daily, even though if it's small things some days, bigger things other days, the thing is that the bigger things will come when I do things every day, because I get the momentum. The ball is rolling. The ball is rolling. The ball is rolling. With those words, I'm raising my cup of tea, wishing you a great weekend, and intrigue you to go out there and face some fears. And if you want to, I almost missed this point. If you want to have that extra thing to make you do these things, you can always send me an email, like I'm the person you should be responsible to, like Nakshon is doing with me here. He's sending me email telling me he's gonna do this challenge this week, and the week after he gives me this little short email status report. That makes him feel that he's responsible. He has made this commitment. Now he needs to deliver, and I'm the person he needs to deliver to, because he said he was gonna do this, and he's gonna send this email, and he can't send the email unless he has done it. And that's why we develop ourselves so much when we're in a work environment. Like when I worked as a bouncer, I had a boss who was paying me for work. That meant I just had to show up. I just had to deal with stuff that was very, 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 very daunting. And now I'm not talking about the making out in the door, because that wasn't part of my job description. But when a guy didn't behave and I had to get them out of there or whatever, that's like scary. But I was working that was part of my work, and I had signed on doing this task. I was responsible to this person to make it happen. That's what pushes us so much more in our work life than in our personal life. When we put up personal quests to ourselves, goals, it's easy to not follow through on them, because it's like nothing happens if I decide not to do it anymore. It's only my word to myself. On a surface level, nothing happens. But when we are untruthful towards our own word, when we don't follow through on the deals we make with ourselves, we are hurting our self-esteem. We don't have integrity towards ourselves, and we lose our self-respect. Because every time we make these breaches on the goals we put up, it's easier to do it the next time, because it's just, nothing happens. There's no consequences. So if you actually want to follow through on your goals, put something at stake. Like, I have to pay my sister 100 crowns if I don't do this, and tell your sister that, okay, I am putting up this quest, and if I don't do it, I have to pay you 100 crowns. I have to tell you whether I have done it or not before the end of the week. Then we have a deadline, we have something at stake, and we have a person, we have a social commitment. That's some powerful tools to really make you do things. It is. And if you don't want to send me an email, you can always just write a comment in the video comments, and that is also an an agreement with me. I'm taking that shit serious. I'm gonna ask you, how did it go? Those words will finalize this stream. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being you. I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.